The following program, Normal Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting normal.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of Normal Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of Normal. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents Normal Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, Normal's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokets, and welcome. It is Tuesday, December 6th, 2011, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us. We are going to have ourselves a great show live here from Rolla J Studios in beautiful Portland, Oregon. And joining me here in the studio today, we have guests. We've got, of course, Todd Armstrong. Our own Todd Armstrong. How you doing, Todd?
Not too bad. How about yourself, Russ?
I'm doing fantastic. And joining us also, special guest comedian for today's segment.
Woo.
Boomer.
Yes. Hello. Hey.
Boomer's first time on the show. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm doing very well.
Doing better now?
Yeah. I was trying to write something down and it just ended up being a scribble.
I understand. Boomer came in and said, the studio looks a lot bigger on screen than, as I said, here, try this. It'll expand the space and time for you.
It's definitely spacious.
I'm glad that's working out for you. Hey, also on today's show, we got, of course, Todd's Toker Topics. What's the topic we're going to be doing today?
Judgment.
All right, we'll do a judgment topic. Also on today's show, of course, we've got our news that we do at the right after this first break. Coming up on the news, we told you about that report that said in the medical marijuana states there's a decrease in traffic fatalities and alcohol usage. Well, of course, the prohibitionists don't like us hearing that kind of stuff, and they are out in force trying to rebut these allegations. I will get behind the statistics on that to show you why they're wrong. Then there's some reefer madness going on in Reno, Nevada. We're going to talk about this out of the Reno Gazette-Journal. They're trying to scare us about teenage pot use, saying it's the worst it's ever been. And of course, I have these things called facts and statistics, and we'll talk about that. In Wisconsin, they're working on a medical marijuana bill, and the local newspapers there are talking about the problems the activists are facing in trying to reconcile different versions of this bill. And then we've got a study from the University of California, San Francisco, on medical marijuana and opiates, and showing once again what we've heard anecdotally so many times from people here in the medical marijuana states about their usage of pharmaceutical painkillers combined with usage of medical cannabis. Also today is Electric Tuesday, and for today, of course, we're keeping that holiday theme going. We're going to get a song from MC Chris. Evergreen is our song for today. And at the end of the show, you may have caught the Discovery Channel show Weed Wars featuring Stephen and Andrew D'Angelo, the owners of Harborside Health Center in Oakland, the world's largest distributor of medical cannabis. And also, they did a couple of promotional spots on cable news, Dylan Ratigan show and the Bill O'Reilly show, where they said some pretty controversial things, and that's going to be the subject of my rant today. Why do the D'Angelos say they don't support legalization for recreational purposes? Did I hear that correctly? You're going to get a chance to hear it coming up next on Normal Show Live.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Weedmaps.com. I'm Radical Russ from Normal. In my job as outreach coordinator, I travel every month, and when I'm on the road, I need a fast, accurate way to find the medical marijuana dispensaries in the area. So I turn to Weedmaps.com. Weedmaps.com has the best dispensary locator online or on your mobile device. Search by zip code or let Weedmaps find you, and in seconds you'll have the addresses, phone numbers, and customer service reviews for the medical marijuana dispensaries in the local area. Weedmaps.com also has a section devoted to helping you find a doctor who understands and recommends medical marijuana under your state's law. You can even check prices on the Medical Marijuana Stock Exchange. Coming soon, you'll even be able to find the listings of NORML attorneys and chapters, local head shops and grow shops, and the best weed-friendly businesses. Weedmaps.com has the information you need to be an informed cannabis consumer. Visit Weedmaps.com today, a proud sponsor of the NORML Network.
Inhaling deeply of the sacred smoke.
This is NORML Show Live.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that gives us these precious rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search or seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carry.
Cannabis Carry is on vacation this week. I'm Radical Russ with your NORML News. Latest story from the LA Weekly blog. Marijuana-using drivers are better drivers, research suggests. Anti-drug activists harsh that mellow with retort. And Dennis Romero is writing there in the LA Weekly. And of course, it's referring to that story that we reported on yesterday, the study that's been going around that showed a look at medical marijuana states of all the U.S. states, as a matter of fact, from the 1990s through the 2000s, and comparing their traffic accident fatality rates before and after the states that have passed medical marijuana. They claim a 9% decrease in the states that passed medical marijuana laws, even above and beyond the decrease that was happening in other states. They also claim a 5% reduction in alcohol usage in the states that had medical marijuana in their state. So in response to that, of course, the drug prohibitionists cannot let that one lie. And the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, or CADCA, reports on the Huffington Post. They say the authors contend that medical marijuana laws cause people to drink less and therefore not drive drunk. This is most certainly a spurious and coincidental relationship, however, as a large body of data points to other reasons why we have witnessed historic reductions in road fatalities over the last 20 years. Yeah, isn't this interesting that the drug prohibitionists would accuse us of using spurious and coincidental relationships to make our case? Are these the same guys that keep telling us that marijuana is the gateway drug to heroin, right? You know, one puff of a reefer and it's the inexorable slide to the needle and the spoon, right? The spurious and coincidental relationships, pot, meat, kettle. All right, so the other thing, too, is Kevin Sabet. He's one of these prohibitionists as well that's allied in this on the prohibition side there. He's also been saying, look, crash fatalities were already going down far before the introduction of medical marijuana. And that's true. But the authors of this study, they had corrected for that. They had contended with that. They had contended with the fact that let's look at the declining rates in all the states, and they found greater declines in the states that have medical marijuana. So yes, there was declines already happening. Medical marijuana seems to have aided that. And they curiously ignore the hypothesis here about the decrease in alcohol use, where they show a 5% decrease in alcohol use in these states. Now, the researchers were saying it's possible that legalizing medical marijuana reduces traffic fatalities through its effect on substance use in public. Alcohol is often consumed in restaurants and bars, while many states prohibit the use of medical marijuana in public. Even where it is not explicitly prohibited, anecdotal evidence suggests that public use of medical marijuana can be controversial. If marijuana consumption typically takes place at home, then designating a driver for the trip back from a restaurant or bar becomes unnecessary, and legalization could reduce traffic fatalities even if driving under the influence of marijuana is every bit as dangerous as driving under the influence of alcohol, which of course we know is not true. Driving under the influence of marijuana is far safer than driving under the influence of alcohol, which is not to say that driving under the influence of marijuana is a safe thing to do, but it is much safer. We've got plenty of studies to show far less impairment for marijuana using drivers. Now, Sabet will argue that one of the problems in this study is that we are arguing that marijuana and alcohol are substitute. Like, if you don't have marijuana, instead you might go drink. If you do have marijuana, you might not go out and drink. Whereas Sabet argues that the marijuana and alcohol are complementary drugs, that if you drink and you have access to marijuana, you're likely to do both, and vice versa. If you have marijuana and drink, you're likely to do both. I would like to shoot that down on my own personal notation here. I know since I have begun marijuana use in 1990, up to that point for 6 years, I was a raging alcoholic. From that point on, my drinking has declined to almost nothing, except for this last weekend in Key West. We'll leave that out. But anyway, that's the word going down there on the LA Weekly blog. Encourage everyone to check that out and, again, get yourself educated on these issues.
Marijuana is an addictive drug which produces in its users insanity, criminality, and death.
Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind.
If the hideous monster Frankenstein came face to face with the monster of marijuana, he would drop dead from fright.
Madness.
Marijuana use among young adults at highest level. This from the RenoGazetteJournal.com. Growing up in Greeley, Colorado, Justin Luke Riley heard lots of anti-drug messages at home, school, and church. But he ignored them to escape his insecurities and fit in better with his high school tennis team. At age 15, he got hooked. A little pot turned into a lot, and then alcohol, cocaine, and whatever else he could get his hands on. Riley said at 19, he entered rehab. He was broke and homeless. I couldn't fake people out anymore, said Riley, now 23, clean and newly married. Roughly 1 in 10 people who try marijuana get addicted, and young users are more vulnerable than older ones, said Nora Volkow, the director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse. Nobody knows why some people get addicted and others don't, and that's why teens should stay away from marijuana, both Volkow and Riley said. But daily marijuana use among young adults is at its highest level since 1991. A national survey released in September shows that 17 million Americans, mostly teens or young adults, used pot in 2010. About 40% of those used it on 20 or more days in the past month, up 36.7% in 2009. It's the biggest drug problem in the United States, said Peter Delaney of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Yeah, right. Okay, so folks, you know where this is going, right? Because there happens to be at the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration a place called the Substance Abuse Mental Health Data Archive, or SAMHDA. You can look it up on the web. You can look it up on the stash. I've got it all over the place. And what's really cool about it is you can go and look at every single national survey on drug use and health from 2010 back to 1979, pull out every single variable they have, filter it by anything you want to filter it by, build graphs, statistics, chart, anything you want to know. Any question you want to ask about drug use in America, you can find out online. Thank you, Ed McMahon. This is, so I took a look at this, right? You know me. I'm going to go take a look at these numbers. So I did, and let me bring this up to you. Got a little Excel chart that will help explain this. What we're doing here is we're going to compare youth marijuana use rates for those who consume marijuana 12 or more days a year. Now, Volkow here in this thing was saying 20 or more days a year. That's problematic because the survey changed between 2010, 1991, and for reference sake, I'm going to go back to 1979 as well. So there were some changes in the variables, but one constant variable we can find throughout all of them is whether or not someone is using once a month or more. So 12 days or more a year, or once a month or more, either way you put it. So we're going to compare 2010, 1991, and again, she said this is the worst it's ever been since 1991 for youth smoking, right? Now, what we've got in this chart is on the left-hand side, a list of the ages of teens and young adults. That's what she was talking about, right? Teens and young adults, age 12 through 20. Now, I've subtotaled this for the teens age 12 through 17, what we could really call children, teenagers, versus the young adults. Those would be 18, 19, and 20, which, as far as I'm concerned, if you're 18 years old, you have the right to smoke weed. If you can put a gun in your hand to walk in the sand, you can put a joint in your hand. Okay? So 18, but still 18 to 20, those are what we're going to call the young adults. Now, when we look at year 2010 in raw numbers of people smoking weed at least once a month or more, aged 12 to 20, it's 5 million people, at least once a month weed smokers. Of that 5 million, 60% of them are aged 18 to 20. So for her to be saying, oh, it's mostly teens and young adults, well, yeah, but when you say mostly teens and young adults, it's really mostly young adults. It's really people aged 18 to 20, 60% of them. Now, of the 40% of those 5 million that are using once a month or more, that's 2 million teenagers aged 12 to 17. And we don't recommend that teenagers be using marijuana anyway, but facts are facts. These are what they're smoking. Now, when you compare that to 1991 and break it down by the percentages, indeed, you could make a case that the rate of marijuana use among the youth is kind of skewing younger. For example, at age 12 in 2010, age 13, there it is. Age 13, let's just look at this number here. At age 13 in 2010, you've got 1.42% of all young people under the age of 21. 1.42% of them are age 13 that are smoking. That's up from 0.97%. So we've got, the bubble's kind of moving younger, if you want to look at it that way. The problem, though, is by looking at it in raw numbers compared to all tokers, tokers are actually getting older. When you look at all tokers that have toked at least once a month here in United States, all adults all people age 12 to 80, whatever, 19 million, actually almost 20 million monthly tokers or 12 times a year tokers. That means the 5 million that are age 20 and younger only represent 1 out of 4 tokers, right? 25%. But back in 1991, young tokers were they were 30%. Of all tokers. So the overall demographic bubble of people that are smoking pot often is growing older, not younger. Furthermore, to say this is the worst it's ever been since 1991, the reason they say that is to ignore the fact that in 1979, not only were the youth numbers 38% of all people that were smoking pot once a month or more, but in raw numbers, there were more young people smoking pot in 1979 than there are today. 8.9 million people aged 20 and younger were smoking pot in 79 versus the 5 million that are smoking pot today. So if we're going to say the sky is falling, what she would be pointing to is what's the situation that existed in 1979. And it didn't seem like all those kids from 79 ended up becoming heroin addicts and ruining the country they lived in. In fact, they ended up growing up to become the 90s generation that led to balanced budgets and relative peace in our time. So I don't know that there's that much problem with this, but it's my job to point out the reefer madness and to give you the numbers that can help you make this argument. We got a great study coming out of the University of California, San Francisco, that finds medical marijuana could help patients reduce pain with opiates. And this coming from the UCSF Journal. And Dr. Donald Abrams is there in the picture as well, and he's been a guest on the show. This study suggests that patients with chronic pain may experience greater relief if their doctors add cannabinoids, the main ingredient in cannabis or medical marijuana, to an opiates-only treatment. The findings from a small-scale study also suggest that a combined therapy could result in reduced opiate dosages. More than 76 million Americans suffer from chronic pain, more people than diabetes, heart disease, and cancer combined, according to the National Centers for Health Statistics. Pain is a big problem in America, and chronic pain is a reason many people utilize the healthcare system, said the paper's lead author, Donald Abrams, MD, a professor of clinical medicine at UCSF and the chief of the Hematology-Oncology Division at San Francisco General Trauma and Hospital Center. And chronic pain is, unfortunately, one of the problems we're least capable of managing effectively. In a paper published this month in Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics, researchers examined the interaction between cannabinoids and opiates in the first human study of its kind. They found the combination of the two components reduced pain more than using opiates alone, similar to results previously found in animal studies. Researchers studied chronic pain patients who were being treated with long-acting morphine or long-acting oxycodone. The treatment was supplemented with a controlled amount of cannabinoids inhaled through a vaporizer. The original focus was on whether the opiates increased effectiveness, not on whether the cannabinoids help to reduce pain. And this goes along with so much of what I have heard directly from patients when they tell me that they are using 1/2 to 1/3 of the opiate painkillers that they had used previously and still getting better relief than they had when they were using 2 to 3 times the addictive toxic pharmaceuticals that are allowed here in this country, that are not Schedule 1 drugs. And it just goes to show once again that when it comes to the use of medical marijuana, this is one of the reasons why we're getting such pushback from pharmaceutical and political agencies. There's a lot of profits at stake. Ooh, time for a break. We are going to have ourselves a little toke here, and when we come back, some holiday music from MC Chris with Evergreen. Stay tuned. It's Normal Show Live.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Normal Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
Remember, friends don't let friends drive stoned. Friends help friends finish off that sack, take a walk to the convenience store, load up on munchies, and crash on the couch. That's what friends do. Okay, class, repeat after me. Am I free to go, officer? I don't consent to any searches, officer. I wish to speak to my attorney before answering any questions, officer. These 3 phrases may help your attorney keep your ass out of a jail cell someday, so memorize them and use them.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Electric Tuesday, our segment featuring the best of modern electric music in the genres of dance, new age, house, and experimental. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Normal Show Live, send it to us at stash@normal.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
Oh, we don't need to say much about MC Chris. He's one of my favorite lowercase guys, right up there with E.E. Cummings, I suppose. But here he goes. MC Chris with some Evergreen. You know him from his work
John Doe Radio.
Sweet sticky buzz, all sing to sing, swoon me away. Green sticky weed for you and me. Time flowing by, Christmas while high. Hark how the bud, sweet sticky buzz, all sing to sing, swoon me away. Green sticky weed for you and me. Time flowing by, Christmas while high. Oh, how we like bells and lights, all toking them all. Merry, merry, merry Mona, merry, merry, merry Mona. Christmas is here, pot brings good cheer. Inhale the smoke, leave Santa a toke.
John Doe Radio.
John Doe here with your Groovin' Thursday tune on Normal Show Live. Happy holidays to you and your family and the Normal Nation. That is holidays with a Z, because, you know, that's how we roll. Coming up for you is MC Chris. Song is called Evergreen. Many of you know MC Chris's tune Weed. Play that on the John Doe Radio Show quite a lot on the live John Doe Radio Show feed, and we've played it before on Normal Show Live. I know you know it. Anyway, MC Chris, a big character on Adult Swim, does a lot of crazy cartoon character voices. He's also pretty cool to check out live. So if you ever get a chance to check him out live, do so. It's a fun event, although very, 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 very little toking going on. And in fact, he gives a speech kind of against toking around all the kids that end up around these events. But either way, we get to it. MC Chris, song is called Evergreen with that Christmassy feel to it. This Friday on the John Doe Radio Show at stickcam.com/John Doe Radio, 11 Mile High Time. That's 11 in the morning, Mile High Time. We're doing a call-in special. Hopefully Skype works. If you can give us a call, 303-800-1965 with your Christmas wish, we can talk to you. Again, please have a very Merry Christmas. You and your family, I hope, have a happy holidays, and that big, fat sack of green is with you. Till we meet again, I'm John Doe. See ya.
Well, on the first day of Christmas, Vanilla gave to me a bag of shrooms and some LSD. We snuck into the park to steal some Christmas trees, but the cops pulled up, and that's nicer to live. We're all fucked up with Smirnoff eggnog. We crunch your candy canes and rev up all the chainsaws. You give us 30 and we'll tie it up and know what your cost. We'll take it 30 and spend it on pot. We're not too bad, we flunk all of our classes. Getting fights, getting drunk, we're back kids. The dad calls bastard, mom's always plastered. We're the closest thing to suburban gangsters. A cold air's what we breathe. Our vests have no sleeves. It's hard to haul trees with sub-0 degrees. We smell like evergreen. All I want for breakfast is my 2 front teeth and some mistletoe left in his piece, baby, a girl. That's free of disease, and while I'm thinking, throw in a couple of G's, yeah. I want my stomach and dreads to be fixed. I want a hoe who doesn't mind my snowshoe doesn't fit. I'm just a hayseed selling trees to break trees. Know your daddy hates me, it's driving you crazy. Even though my nose is running, get the honeys cause the money, but I never get licked. I find my way in too long on these eyes. I don't trip, just dip, listen to country with my piss. I rock my name because I think it's funny. I'm so into this deciduous lifestyle. You see a dead tree and I see a cash cow. I never bargain and I never back down. Put the back seat down and I'll take you out to Tree Town. Your daughter's giving me the eye, so I am giving her a ride. I'll put up between myself and put up all the lights, as long as I get all up in her insides. All I want for breakfast is my 2 front teeth and some mistletoe left in his piece, baby, a girl. That's free of disease, and while I'm thinking, throw in a couple of G's, yeah. I want my stomach and dreads to be fixed. I want a hoe who doesn't mind my snowshoe doesn't fit. I'm just a hayseed selling trees to break trees. Know your daddy hates me, it's driving you crazy.
You want a copy of that song for your iPod? Check out the Daily Toker Tunes at the Stash blog by surfing to stash.normal.org and choosing Media, and then Toker Tunes from the main menu.
What makes something funny? How does humor impact health and psychological well-being? How can you incorporate humor into everyday life? A concise, reader-friendly introduction to an important but often underappreciated topic in modern psychology, Humor 101 explains the role of comedy, jokes, and wit in the sciences and discusses why they are so important to understand. Psychology professor Dr. Mitch Earlywine draws from his personal experiences in stand-up comedy to focus on how humor can regulate emotion, reduce anxiety, and diffuse tense situations, expose pretensions, build personal relationships, and much more. He irreverently debunks the pseudoscience on the topic of humor and leaves readers not only funnier, but better informed. It's part of the Psych 101 series from Springer Publishing, Humor 101,
by Dr. Mitch Earlywine, PhD.
You gotta know all the tricks. Like, for example, if a woman's on top, she can't get pregnant. It's just gravity.
Well, that's true. Everyone knows that.
What goes up must come down.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
Here at Normal Show Live, we spend all week taking a serious look at the tragedy of American marijuana prohibition. But it is important to take a break and remember that we are a vibrant, diverse, and oftentimes hilarious community of people. Friend, comedian Todd Armstrong, or Goob the Knob on Facebook and Twitter, joins us to expose the lighter side of lighting up with Todd's Toker Topics.
Well, obviously, I'm going to have to fix that liner, but
yeah, I'm still on Facebook for my friends. I'm still Goob the Knob on Facebook for the friends.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's not completely wrong.
Yes, not dead. On Twitter, unfortunately, it is now Arm Todd Strong.
Todd Strong. We love it. So we want to get you right into the topic today, which is on judgment.
Yes, please. So hello, everyone. I know it's been a while since I've been back, but there's been quite a bit of buzz in the world of cannabis. So I wanted to talk about judgment today. And first and foremost, I feel that judgment only comes from a position of authority. So unless I have authority over someone, I really shouldn't judge them. Even though it is very hard to not judge people within the legalization community. It's hard to not judge someone that's wearing a sarong in the winter. It's really hard not to judge someone wearing a stocking hat in the middle of the summer. But you know they're assholes, but you don't say that to yourself. You don't tell people that. But the reason we're judged is because everyone's judged as a stoner because of two reasons. The squares feel that they have authority. The squares feel that it's a Schedule I drug. The squares have a perception of cannabis being just marijuana and Cheech and Chong smoking in a car and not having a real job. Ignorance provides judgment for these people, and I wanted to talk about this because it's kind of funny nowadays that we are considering the notion of it actually being considered medicine, which it has been considered medicine before we had pharmaceuticals. And this is where we need to focus on the judgments of others. And this is what I'd like to bring into Russ, because Russ has brought up a fabulous issue with the dangers of dabs. I will not talk about it in a second because it's not quite as funny as the first half of what I want to talk about. Now, I think that we should really focus on the ed side. I think that if we were to educate the people that are choosing to judge the community upon the other access of cannabis into your system, be it vaporizers. A vaporizer scares someone until you explain to them that it's just a robot bong. And then they get excited, and then you show them that there's a remote control, and then they're less afraid of it. That's the good thing to cannabis, because when people say that medical marijuana is not medicine because you can never smoke something, I agree with that. I don't consider medical marijuana smokable because I don't feel that that's the best thing for people. That's why we vaporize. And that's where we're leading this long path down to dabs. I enjoy the hell out of dabs. They look very odd to others. And I've had this personal issue where I've been judged based upon the PR that dabs present. My in-laws saw a video of me doing dabs with Ganja John through a 42 perk bong that me and him built via Ash Catcher. Damn right, we called it Frankenstein, Pete Boomer. It was awesome. I almost threw up. But the video was saw by my in-laws. Yeah, it took a good half an hour. Yeah. My in-laws saw a video of that, and they proceeded to tell everyone in the far end of my family that they saw a video of me smoking crack. Now, I can't blame them for this. They saw the skillet. They saw the 42 apparatus bong. I can't blame them. They're psychopaths. I haven't talked to them in years. They're understandable. But they are the type of people that we need to talk to, the people that are judging us. Russ wrote a very prominent article that I agree with a lot, and that's what we need to focus on now. The judgment of others within our community needs to stop. We need to understand that everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and most likely the people that are on the outside of our community are going to have even stronger opinions. So, in my opinion, I'm going to just defer to Ganja John, who is a sage amongst men. He said, Russ didn't throw anyone under the bus. He's telling everyone the bus is coming.
Ooh.
That's a perfect example. I can't surmise anything more than that. I'm going to leave. I'm Todd Armstrong. I will see you next Tuesday.
Very, very well done. I have to say, though, the education we could do is to educate them that crackheads can't afford 42 perk bongs.
That's right. That's right. And we're not going to laugh our ass off as we do it. We'd probably scratch our asses off after we did it.
They also, they don't have the hand dexterity. They try to be putting the pieces together.
Fucking thing broke again.
Piece of pipe.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And that's the other thing too that's kind of come out of this is that people take difference of opinion to be personal slight instead of being that, hey, we just disagree on things. We still can get along.
Yeah,
we can still work for the same goals.
There's a lot of people in the community that believe that cannabis is the deity god. I'm a deadpan logical atheist. I see where they're coming from. That the plant is an incredibly amazing thing, just from a genetic aspect, from a utility aspect. But we choose to view it as a gift for food, medicine, recreation, hobby. I mean, there's garden farmers that love to do what they do.
Yeah.
That's not this evil, horrible thing that makes you, do drugs and kill people.
Boomer, how about you and weed, man? Been a long part of your life?
Oh yeah, always. I mean, definitely. I was definitely one of those younger kids in that study, trying it and then, continuing to do it. But I actually was on the other side before, judging before in high school because my parents. I grew up in a home where it was around a lot, and so I actually judged from that, and then. Once I actually got educated and figured out what was going on, then it was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then like everything else, the rooms became more spacious, the colors became more vibrant.
Taco Bell had flavor.
Tom's jokes got funnier.
That's right. That's why I have a specific audience, my friend.
Fantastic segue. What's the next performance, guys?
Oh, actually, this week I got the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards on Saturday, and if anybody in Southwest Washington is around anywhere within an hour of Portland, the best show, in my opinion, is going to happen at the Ridgefield. In Ridgefield, Washington, at the Old Libby Theater, it's going to be Ron Funches, Ian Carmel can't make it now, but Lonnie Bruin, Will Woodruff, and myself, $8, 7:30 on Friday night. Amazing show.
Fantastic.
And Boomer?
I'll be at the Cannabis Cafe this weekend, and where else am I going to be? I forgot.
Well, we'll
he'll be at Harvey's. He'll be at Harvey's in about 3 months.
Yeah.
We'll look it up on the web. Thanks, guys, for Todd's Toker Topics. We'll have another one on Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Cannabinoids and health.
Cannabinoids.
Why am I having trouble saying that?
Cannabinoids.
Oh, jeez.
Cannabinoids.
What a gift.
Flame on if you can. You're looking for the dope weed. Fire it up. Flame on if you can. You're looking for the dope weed. Bully boy's a man. Flame on if you can. You're looking for the dope weed. Flame on, hit the light up. Every burn bud.
Hey, tokers and tokettes, this is Radical Russ from Normal Show Live. We're proud to be the voice of the marijuana nation and proud to have you on our team. Now, you can represent NSL in your own Normal Show Live gear from handmadeapparel.biz. Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel is one of us and a huge supporter of our show. He's designed the classic blockhead line of NSL shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Worn by Radical Russ, Cannabis Carry, and Ganja John on the show and at live events, the designs feature their iconic logos and the "It's got to be 420 somewhere in the world" tagline. Proceeds directly benefit Normal Show Live and HandmadeApparel.biz, one of our community's strongest supporters. You can also get your Cannabis Cure UK, Ganja John Show, Irie Island Hour, and more gear from the Normal Network at HandmadeApparel.biz. Visit handmadeapparel.biz today.
Yo, what's up? This is Miles from Slightly Stupid. You're listening to Normal Show Live.
Hear the Hot Box podcast from Kalispell, Montana, every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific with replays at midnight. Also catch the morning replay Tuesday at 6 a.m. and the weekend replay Sunday at 5 p.m. right here on the Normal Network.
You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant. Harborside's D'Angelo's, quote, "We do not support legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes," end quote. Leading up to the promotion of their new Discovery Channel reality show Weed Wars, the brothers Stephen and Andrew D'Angelo appeared on the
Dylan Radigan Show. Now, that's on the left-leaning MSNBC network there. And then on the O'Reilly Factor, Bill O'Reilly Show, that's on the right-leaning Fox News channel. Stephen and Andrew run the world's largest cannabis dispensary, Harborside Health Center, and they're serving over 98,000 patients and grossing in excess of $20 million annually. Now, first, Dylan Radigan asks Stephen whether he'd be presumptuous in suggesting that you guys support legalization. And let me see if we can get this video on for you with some volume. Yeah, we're having some problems with the mute here for some reason. The system's not giving me the audio, but basically, on the show was asked about whether or not he supported the legalization of marijuana. And in the previous video playback, they show how these they're basically showing some of the shots of Harborside, and I think I can get that video to go for you here.
That this is a recreational drug that is being that people are trying to pass off as a medical thing, and that raises a certain amount of skepticism among a lot of folks. They say, listen, marijuana is a recreational drug. It is not a medical thing. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think when the audience tunes in the Weed Wars on Discovery Channel, they're going to see a completely different impression. They're going to see people that really are sick. In fact, you can go on the Discovery website right now and meet a couple dozen of our patients that are very, very sick and need this medicine. I've got glaucoma. I'm going to go blind. So there are legitimate medical needs, and people are just, one of the reasons we did the show is to break that stigma.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That, the reason that we did this show was to let Americans see for themselves who are the people that are using medical cannabis and what are they using it for. And we invited Discovery to come in and embed with us for a full year. They had an opportunity to film all of our patients, and you'll see a really great cross-section of exactly who's using cannabis, the reasons they're using it, and what it does for them.
Am I being presumptuous in suggesting that you guys would be in favor of legalization?
Yes, you would. I don't believe that any psychoactive substance should be used for recreation. If you want a recreation, read a book, take a walk, play a game of basketball. I do believe that adult Americans should be able to use cannabis for health and wellness purposes, though.
So all right. So that's where I'm going to cut that off, because to state that you don't believe any psychoactive substances should be used for recreation is kind of a problematic stance in a country that recognizes the recreational use of the psychoactive substance called wine. So is all wine health and wellness now too, right? Do we need to tell our doctor we're drinking the red wine for its antioxidant benefits for healthy hearts when really we just want to get a light after dinner buzz going? And if we take this health and wellness thing to its logical extreme here, then anything that studies show could reduce your anxiety or lead to some sort of wellness benefit could be called health and wellness. I mean, I saw a study the other day that said men that masturbate frequently have less chance of prostate cancer. So are we going to say masturbation is health and wellness? I mean, at least it's not illegal yet. But what are we going to do next? Repeal the 21st Amendment and go back to medical whiskey prescriptions? I mean, let's just be honest about this. And by the way, speaking of wine, and I got to give the hat tip out to Mickey Martin at Cannabis Warrior for pulling this one up. California's Steve Cubby is promoting the Regulate Marijuana Like Wine initiative in California. So he asked Stephen DeAngelo about this just 3 months ago when we were all out at Seattle Hemp Fest. Let's see what Stephen had to say about wine, that psychoactive substance.
And cannabis. I support any effort to change the cannabis laws that's going to get the people who are in prison out of there. And if we can do it by repeal, great. If we can do it with a wine analogy, great. The most important thing to me is we get our people out of prison.
Okay, so we support any effort to change the cannabis laws. All right, we got that. And we don't want people going to prison, so they won't get busted for it. Now, isn't that legalization of recreational use, right? If a wine analogy is great, what are you trying to say here? Does that mean wine should be treated like medical marijuana, or that marijuana should be treated like wine, or Do we need a doctor for wine? It just seems like 3 months ago you were saying that cannabis was a lot like wine, and now recreational substances shouldn't be used for psychoactive reasons. All right, well, let's go on here to the next clip. Next on the O'Reilly factor, Bill O'Reilly pushes the brothers on the whole medical aspect of medical marijuana on California's Prop 215 with his familiar bloviating about his undercover report that showed how easy it is to get a medical marijuana recommendation. And then he acknowledges that Stevens' degenerative disc disease and Andrew's glaucoma are serious ailments in need of cannabis treatment. But he points out that cannabis in California can be recommended for anxiety and that it is ludicrously easy to find a doctor who will find you anxious enough to need a weed card. So O'Reilly dangles the fishhook of, isn't this quasi-legalization? And Andrew D'Angelo takes the bait in this clip from Fox's O'Reilly Factor. Just cue this up just a little bit for you. Here we go.
You look at the card and you give them the pot.
Yeah, we don't have the medical training to make that determination,
Right.
but we do check with the Medical Board of California to make sure the doctor
I'm
is
sure you
licensed and in
do.
good
You don't want your license pulled for $20 million a year. But look, you know I'm right. This is quasi-legalization.
I think that there are a lot of legitimate health and wellness purposes that cannabis can be
That's
used for.
fine.
It's not reserved just for people on death's doorway.
But anxiety covers everything. Andrew, quasi-legalization, correct?
No, we will say right here on this show,
Yeah.
Bill, that we do not support the legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes.
Okay, but you know... Okay.
Cannabis for recreational purposes.
Okay, but you know...
We will say right here on this show,
Yeah.
Bill, that we do not support the legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes.
Okay, but you know...
All right, so I just had to replay that a few times just so we could make sure we heard exactly. Yeah, I know. So we do not support the legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes. Now, this has drawn some heat, and I got word from Mickey and some other sources that they then went to try to clarify this position that they do not support the legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes. The posting said, quote, "The mission of Harborside Health Center is to advocate for full access to cannabis for purposes of health and wellness. While it is not our mission to advocate for the legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes, we do feel criminal penalties for cannabis are unjust and should be repealed." End quote. Now, did that clarify anything? All right, so let me see if I got this straight now. People who use cannabis for health and wellness ought to be granted full access. People who use cannabis for recreational purposes should not be criminally penalized. So does that mean all the cops leave all pot smokers alone, but only the ones that claim health and wellness get to shop at Harborside? And what do you call it when there are no criminal penalties for recreational marijuana use other than legalization? Look, it just doesn't get any clearer. And below that that clarification, there's a link to a essay that Stevie has written, and it's called Health or Wellness, Not Intoxication. At a Crossroads, Wellness, Not Intoxication. I saw this posted as a flyer, as a two-page flyer out at the Atlanta Cannabis Reform Festival that I did. And let me quote to you from this treatise that kind of explains the whole wellness, not intoxication. No, this isn't Flip the Switch. This isn't Out of the Shadows. This is now Wellness, Not Intoxication. Rather than positioning recreational cannabis as being in opposition to medical cannabis, my fellow activists might instead recognize that promoting recreation is one of the many health and wellness benefits provided by cannabis. Recreation itself has long been recognized in America as an essential ingredient for health and wellness. The soccer moms of America are never going to buy the argument that their kids need one more thing to get high on, no matter how safe or natural that thing is. But they might vote in favor of allowing adult citizens to make their own health and wellness decisions. Legalization of marijuana for recreational purposes, a strategy that emphasizes cannabis as an intoxicant, plays right into the hands of the prohibitionists, who are itching for another opportunity to portray cannabis users as decadent hedonists. And at this time, in this place, the legalization strategy is not merely misguided, it is dangerous. This is a quote. Instead, advocates of legalization should recalibrate their understanding of medical cannabis from the illness model to the wellness model and focus their energies on expanding the umbrella of medical cannabis to include all users of the plant. So that whole all use is medical. Anyone using it, it's all medical. Okay. Instead of accepting the limitations and inaccuracy of the illness model of medical cannabis, our movement should ensure that all legislation embraces the wellness model of medical cannabis and is therefore expansive enough to bring all adults under its protection. So, cannabis promotes recreation. Recreation is good for wellness. All adults who want to use it for recreation as part of their wellness should be entitled to do so long as they don't call it recreational. I'm trying to understand this. Because apparently it's only misguided and dangerous to be campaigning for recreational use in 2011. Because back in 2010...
As someone who's dedicated his life to the cause of medical cannabis, that Prop 19 is going to advance the cause of medical cannabis and not set us back. And 50% of the state now, medical cannabis patients have no safe or affordable access to medicine. Prop 19 will go a long way to addressing that situation. So I think Prop 19 will help medical cannabis.
Okay, so Prop 19 somehow campaigning for recreational use. There was no doubt about the fact that Prop 19 was a recreational use thing. That was not misguided and dangerous. But now in 2011, when the IRS is on Harborside's back for $2.5 million in taxes, and you got the spotlight on him from the Discovery Channel Weed Wars show, now it's dangerous and misguided. I understand. You know, this whole thing has got the D'Angelos parsing words and coming up with new definitions that I'm afraid would make one of our former pot-smoking presidents proud.
The meaning of the word is.
What's that?
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Oh, that's right. Depends on the meaning of the word is. I remember that from the 90s. Yeah, so I'm not buying it then. I'm not buying it now. And that, my friends, is the real misguided and potentially dangerous mistake for our movement, blowing any shred of credibility we may have with the general public. Medical support does still outweigh legalization support, but that medical support number has stayed constant since Prop 215, while legalization support has doubled now to 50%. Most polls are showing that a majority of Americans also believe that, and this is the latest CBS News poll that came out a couple weeks ago, quote, most medical marijuana is used for something else, end quote. That's 52% of Americans, and only 31% believe it is being used for, quote, serious medical illnesses, end quote. Is it too much to expect the world to completely... It is too much to expect the world to completely redefine their concept of medical to fit the uses of marijuana that are clearly recreational. As every other state after California has shown, medical means restrictive condition lists, doctors harassed by medical boards, ridiculously low possession limits, and dispensary monopolies with tight government security and controls. We have a world that understands and supports recreational use of alcohol. Won't it be easier to convince someone that an adult can be trusted with an intoxicant safer than alcohol than to try to convince them that the Prop 215 area at the Cypress Hill show is anything medical? Instead of wellness, not intoxication, how about honesty, not euphemisms? A path of health and wellness always leads to a place where someone gets to decide if I'm not sick enough to keep out of a prison cell. A path of full legalization includes all medical and all spiritual and all industrial uses along with the recreational uses. Now, you can check out this rant up on the Stash blog, stash.normal.org. I've got the videos, and I encourage you to check them out because I only played clips of them. But the entire videos are posted up there, and for context, you really should check them out. Check out the whole length there because there's a lot to look at. And I just wanted to address some of the comments that I've gotten on here, too, from folks. One person, a 365-420 comment on the blog, everything else aside, the word recreational is dangerous because of the images it conjures and the connotations that it connects with the recreational use of alcohol, which brings to mind rowdy fraternity brothers out of control, panty raids, vomit, fights, rapes, belligerence, chaos, good times. Recreational coupled with marijuana is not... There we go. Recreational coupled with marijuana is not too distant from that in the minds of the uninitiated. So I can certainly understand Steve's desire to distance himself from that world in particular. Well, here's where I would differ with that. Recreational combined with alcohol connotes football games, sexy girls, dinners with friends, toast to families, the high life, Miller time, and so on. That's the miracle of framing and advertising. We've got something that is as deleterious to society as alcohol, just like you described, that is so openly accepted, tolerated, and celebrated in our culture. So rather than implicitly run away from the recreational tag by euphemizing our high life with tags like medicinal or wellness, which the general public is increasingly resisting. I mean, I can't tell you how many letters to the editor I read, newspaper op-eds I read all across the country where the gist of it is, let's stop dancing around medical and just have the debate on legalization. We should be embracing our choice of the safer alternative for enjoyable recreation, as one reform group puts it. Just as Americans can handle drink responsibly when we treat them like adults, they can handle toke responsibly if we are just honest with them about it. Furthermore, a continued frame of medical, or morphing it to wellness, still maintains a situation where someone not using cannabis for those purposes is to be punished. It still maintains the illusion that some outside entity has the right to judge my motives for putting a non-toxic herb in my body. Smoking tobacco has absolutely no medical or wellness benefits, quite the opposite, yet we recognize that adults have the right to do that. I only ask for the same honesty and respect from my fellow citizens that they afford beer drinkers and cigar smokers. Maybe it's just me, I'm just tired of half-stepping, apologizing, euphemizing, justifying, and redefining the fact that I smoke pot and I like it a lot. Period.
Yeah. Let's turn over a fucking car.
You know, and that's the thing. And I've gotten some heat. Another guy says that I'm being too critical of a guy who's done wonderful things, and you know, it should be medical. You shouldn't attack this. And it's like, you know, one of the things he says, Steve knows it's medical access that's the path to general legalization. That's my disagreement, because I don't think it is. I think the medical path is the path to medical.
Yeah.
The medical path's the path to pills, the path to pharmaceuticals.
You don't want a card up your sleeve. Show all your cards. You know, why sidestep it and be like, oh well, you know, well, in the back, we want legalization completely, but for now we'll just take, you know, just medical.
Yeah.
When everybody else is like, let's get drunk.
You know, for me, it's like we presented this situation where we said, no, you know, in the early 90s, right? Like, no, we're not legalizing. No, it's just for cancer patients. No, cancer and AIDS and if you've got a lot of pain and spasms, just for them. No way would we ever legalize. No, we're not legalizing. No,
a salesman has to say something to get in the door, though.
No, we're not. But you know, when you think about it, everybody really is kind of sick. You know, it's like
we're all dying every day.
It's a sales approach. It's a soft close. You get in the door. No one wants to buy a $12,000 vacuum or you know, like that's what it is.
Can I clean your floor?
Yeah, let me give you a free bed cleaning. That's what Kirby has a business. No one wants to buy $3 Cutco knives. So you had to say something stupid to get your foot in the door.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is I think that if you keep fighting for medical marijuana, you end up with only marijuana that's medical. You end up with GW Pharmaceuticals and other companies that perfect inhalers and sprays and pills that do the same thing and take away the pesky high. You get no home grow laws like they got in New Jersey, Delaware, DC, and Arizona. You get centralized cannabis production. You get, you know, pharmaceutical. You have to go to the pharmacy. Got to go to another guy in a white coat to get permission. You know, that's my problem with it.
You get cannabis lights. Cannabis Lights 100s in a pack, please.
Yeah. Well, in New Jersey, they're setting up the medical program there, and the governor there wants to set it so that all the strains have to be 10% THC or lower.
Yeah, that's just because Christie's had so many munchies his whole life. He's afraid everyone's going to look like him.
Trying to
hey, I'm Todd Armstrong. Go fuck yourself, Christie.
There you go. And, you know, it's just, there's a whole discussion on this, and I encourage you, again, check out the blog at stash.normal.org. Sign up for an account, you know, get your words in here, man. Let's have this debate, because, you know, I'm not ever going to say I'm right. I'm just going to say that this is my opinion, and here's my basis for it.
This is why I feel I'm right.
Yeah. I'm open-minded, though. I'll listen to other sides. But here's a couple of news stories that kind of set it for me. Business Week from 11/22. GW Pharmaceuticals expects to complete the third phase of clinical trials on a cancer pain treatment by late 2013 to expand sales of the drug beyond multiple sclerosis. Now, that's in the UK, of course. Sales of the drugs, called Sativex, to treat cancer pain may be twice the amount generated for the treatment of MS. Peak annual sales for Sativex may reach $234 million in Europe. The Wiltshire, England-based drug maker will focus on getting U.S. approval for the cancer pain indication, and Otsuka Pharmaceutical will will market it here. The company said in June it will begin the second phase 3 trial, and a third will start in the first half of next year. So the pharmaceutical companies, they're on it, folks. They're doing it. They're making the next brand of cannabinoid pharmaceuticals. And also there was that story of the DEA wanting to reschedule THC so that if the government grew it at University of Mississippi and they took the natural THC out of the natural plant and put it in a pill, that's Schedule 3. But if you grow the plant in your closet and take the THC to smoke, that's Schedule 1, you go to prison.
Yeah, I had a discussion with the lady that runs that proves all the new pharmaceuticals for Kaiser Permanente, and it's shocking how much more I know about scheduling drugs than the lady that runs it. I'm not going to say her name, but I almost threw it in my mouth.
All right, folks, that's all the time we got for our first hour. Stay tuned for hour 2. We're going to hang out with Boomer and Todd here in the studio. Take your calls at 971-533-7111. Tomorrow we get some Dr. Mitch Earlywine. We'll talk more science. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take it out one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.